In 1966, the folks over on the television side came to me and said two things. One, we've been listening to your work and we think you're pretty good. And two, we can't find anybody else to go to Vietnam, so how about you? And I think two was really more important than one. They were having a hard time finding anybody. This by now was late '66, and things were starting to get really nasty over there. And very few of the older, more established correspondents were volunteering to go for more than just a look-see, for a week or two. And so they asked me to go over for most of the year of 1967, which I did. If I had to do it again, I would have had a lot of doubts. I should have had many doubts. As by then, 1967, Grace Ann and I had two children by then. And with two young children, the idea of going over there and gallivanting around the countryside in Vietnam probably was not a smart thing to do. Well, first of all, that there was a very good relationship, by and large, between media and military. I know that the revealed truth now, after all these years, is that they hated us and we hated them and we didn't get along at all. I didn't find it to be that way at all. I must say I was, again, a young correspondent. I was 27 by then, and therefore spent almost all of my time with the troops out in the field, mostly the Marines. And they were just happy to have us there. It was a vindication in some respects of what they were doing there, that an American organization, news organization like ABC or NBC or CBS would show up in the field and they would see the camera, and that sort of meant, okay, I'm not just out here on my lonesome. Somebody from back home really is paying attention. So by and large, we got along very well with the grunts. And that usually extended up to the company commanders, captains. Things started getting a little more frigid with the majors and the lieutenant colonels. And by the time you got to the colonels, they clearly were concerned if you saw something that they didn't want you to see. And that could range from something as, it seemed silly to me at the time. In retrospect, it seems even sillier. They had a military action that was referred to as H&I fire, harassment and interdiction. The concept was that since the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese were out there in the jungle, make their lives as miserable for them as you possibly could. And that meant sitting on a hilltop with a 155 millimeter howitzer or a 175 millimeter artillery piece, just firing shells into the surrounding countryside all night long. I remember once doing a story that was simply predicated on math. How much does one of these shells cost? And it was roughly $1 a pound. And a 175 millimeter shell weighed about 175 pounds, 155 millimeter weighed about 155 pounds. So you could actually measure it. There goes $155, there goes $175. And this, you keep it up all night, you're firing 2,000-3,000 shells into the jungle. Every once in a while, they might have some mortar fire incoming. Usually what would happen is that the Viet Cong would send a mortar squad into a village that the Marines had very patiently cultivated over a period of weeks and sometimes months. And they'd actually gotten some cooperation from the villagers, and there might even be some real friendship with the villagers. And the Viet Cong, who were no fools, would send a mortar squad into the village at 2 o'clock in the morning, fire 2 or 3 mortar shells out of the center of the village, and then run like hell. and the Marines would respond by obliterating the village, which was exactly what the Viet Cong wanted them to do. It didn't work very well. It really didn't. We have had back then, have today, a terrific military. We really do. But they were fighting a political war with military means, and it was doomed to end badly. And some of the better reporters who were covering that story in the early and mid-'60s, guys like Neil Sheehan, then of United Press, and Malcolm Brown of the AP, and David Halberstam, who was writing for the New York Times, they saw this very early on, and it wasn't just that they had the insight. They were talking to military people who could see the same thing. I mean, the military, these men and women are not fools. They know exactly what they're doing, and they could see the way this was going to go. And I'm afraid that it was just destined to fail.